Hello, it is April 19th, 2022. This is As the World Burns, tying polls, prediction markets, and forecasting into current affairs and news. I'm your host, Randall Burns. Okay, I'm continuing today with topics relating to the Arcimoto MLM introduction. Today we're looking at, is Platform 2 the tinkerer's dream? Do-it-yourself bicycle and tricycle makers. And asking, what does the future hold for them, and what some of the significance of this might be. Now, this is a little step away from the main focus of the channel, but please bear with me. Also, nothing in this video is financial advice. Consult a licensed financial professional if you want financial advice. I have not purchased these products unless I state otherwise, so I'm just going by what I know. A very venerable vendor in this area is AtomicZombie.com, link included in the description, which sells plans for people that want to build their own bicycles and tricycles. They also have some quads and trailers on there also. They have literally dozens of plans for all kinds of different vehicles. And I've submitted the link. You can preview them yourself. None of these out of the box would be directly applicable to Platform 2. They'd need to be modified for that purpose. But I think in many cases, the modifications are pretty minimal. And it's the type of thing that there might be a lot of energy in this community for. I mean, there's a bunch of people centered around this kind of bike building hobby. And Platform 2 is kind of like red meat to them. It's a new gadget that nobody else has. And I think they might get really attracted to it really rapidly. Another really important vendor that's been around for a while is Utah Trikes. And they do a lot of mail order work. Now, their main focus is selling manufactured trikes of all vendors, but they do sell motors for retrofits, and that used to be, I think, a much bigger part of their business. And they at least have things like recumbent bike frames in their catalog, even if they're no longer selling them or pushing them. But in the old days, they had to do essentially a lot of retrofits, and they do kind of do custom builds right now. They do quite a bit of that. But the part business has not gone away by any means. So I think that getting them to carry Platform 2 parts might be a huge win for terms of distribution. Another vendor I would at least know about is Falcon EV. They've used to be a really big vendor for electric motor retrofit kits for existing bicycles. They seem to be emphasizing the sale of bags now. In fact, I don't think they're selling motors at all, but you can go. I included a link to archive.org so you can kind of see what they were for 16 plus years. It might be worth calling these folks, seeing if they can be gotten excited about Platform 2. And they are still selling bike bags, which might be a useful add-on to have as part of the mix for the Platform 2 family. Okay, now you see there is a whole subculture built around bike building. Sometimes they use some kind of odd materials. This is a bamboo recumbent trike. That's a home-built one. Complete plans are available. I think this partly comes out of the day when recumbent trikes were simply not really commercially available at anything approaching a reasonable price. But the subculture is not that far gone, and it's still around. I've also seen examples of wooden trikes. I think this is prettier and probably better, but I've seen ones made for woodworkers. Part of it is just have people who just plain love to make things, and if they have the parts, they will. Another is people who have some need that is unmet by the broad market. Now, this is a bike aimed apparently at special needs children or children in need of certain types of therapy. I'll put a link to the webpage. I've not reviewed it carefully, but they're basically emphasizing PVC as a material that a broad range of people can work with fairly comfortably, even if they're not experienced craftsmen. And American Speedster is a company that's been around for years. They sell PVC four-wheel cycles mainly. I don't think these are legal to ride in bicycle lanes. I think that certain areas like Sun City, Arizona kind of like cast a blind eye to the legalities, simply because it's a way for older people to get around. I think that Platform 2 can make big improvements in this market in general, in several dimensions. It may be one of the first mass market items in this area. Right now, these people are oftentimes they just can't find something that fits their needs, so they're building it themselves. This is an example of a do-it-yourself trailer from AtomicZombie. It's a powered trailer, and it basically just has very, very simple wiring that powers based on what the bike that's towing it wants. One thing I do notice is they don't have turn signals and lights like most trailers would on a car. And that just shows you how loose the current bike regulations are. Now, I think this is going to change as e-bike become a larger portion of overall cycling. We are already seeing increased accident rates, and I think that government will step in at some point if we in the cycling and micro EV community don't step in. And that's going to happen fast. And that may, in fact, be a good meticulous set of questions on emerging regulations in this area. A viewer who's also active on some Arcimoto forums on Twitter forwarded this one to me. It looks like one of the best three-wheel trailer products out there. One could easily do a Platform 2 version of this one. This one is available in the EU. It is not available in the US in the electric form. The non-electric form is available in the US. Again, they're just using a very simple connection mechanism to enable the trailer to tow it and maintain power. I think there's kind of a minimalistic braking system in here. I didn't notice any rear tail lights or turn signals, which is, I think, an omission. But I can easily imagine hobbyists turning Platform 2 into something like this pretty early on, or being provided incentives to do so even. I personally really want a trailer that is big enough for me to go to Costco with and haul 300 or 400 pounds of groceries, and big enough to and adept enough to let me go to the dump and do my garbage delivery, because I live in a remote location and I'm hauling large bins of garbage to the dump in a trailer that I tow behind my Subaru Legacy. Replacing that function, at least on pretty days, would be a big win for me economically in terms of my exercise budget. Improving child carriers is another area where I think the DIY market might take off pretty rapidly, and I think there's room for some prototypes on this area. This is an example of the current offering in child carriers. I'm not inspired by the safety. These products run from like $150 to $1,200, and I'm not wildly inspired by what I see in terms of build quality or safety features. I'm sure they serve a need. I'm sure certain people really have their lives positively affected by them. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and especially with Platform 2 in the mix. And I think it's just a matter of giving the tinkerers a part, putting out a few prizes, and seeing what emerges. And that's kind of what I've suggested to both Arcimoto and other vendors in this area. There are hobbyists and tinkerers who love to build things. They build things even when there's not a financial incentive to do so, because they just like it. And that energy can be harnessed for the benefit of Platform 2 and the greater Arcimoto community. Just giving people prizes for publishing, for submitting plans. And those plans can be harvested for intellectual property. And there's part of the deal could be that as part of the submission that Arcimoto or another partner company can buy patent rights and at a price. And I think folks might be pretty surprised at what people come up with. I do think there should be some kind of royalty arrangements if a particular patent really does take off and becomes quite valuable. That to me is kind of like winning the lottery. I think most of this is just going to be getting a greater diversity of products on the market. And Crispin Sinclair, a pretty noted inventor in the UK, came out with this safety bicycle. Now, Mark has talked about some enclosure features for Platform 2. I don't know where that is really at. They haven't really disclosed a lot yet, but this is an example of the state of the art of what's existing right now. This, I think, could also, by the way, be adapted to a child seat or a child carrier. And there's a lot of regulatory issues there. This is not legal advice. Consult an attorney on this, please. But I do think the DIY regulations and laws are a lot looser. So there's a lot more room for fast experimentation in this area. Also, DIY customers are not impeded by patent law, so that is not an issue. Like they, for example, could make a copy of this and it would not be illegal in the United States under existing law.